What do a speaking coach, strategy consultant, and a designer have in common? Sounds like the start of a bad joke, right? But honestly, it's about finding out what people really do in their jobs. The stories, the struggles, the coffee breaks. The real stuff you won't find in a job title.
Welcome to a space where we sit down with people from all kinds of careers, have a laugh, and dive into what makes their work meaningful. Whether you're looking to learn something new or just here for a good story, let us be your guide. I'm Geoff.
And I'm Charlie.
And let's get
Casually Pro.
Yay! Today, we are here with Ida Ivanka Hamilton, who I met this year in London. Ida's an artist. She has exhibited all around the world in multiple states in the US, in Norway, Switzerland, and many others. She's a multidisciplinary designer. Ida, welcome.
Thank you so much, Geoff and Charles, for inviting me. This is so exciting. I'm really honored to be part of this project.
All right, Ida. So just for a short introduction, can you tell us exactly what you are doing?
I work in a variety of projects. I became well known for a particular type of artwork made out of silk cocoons from butterflies, which they naturally leave in order to lay eggs. So I take the recycled material and I create abstract artworks. But additionally to that, I work in product design, interior design, in multidisciplinary design, in any form of design and branding, packaging design, clothing, knitwear design. Depending on what the project is, I have my full focus on it. And then I will lead it up to completion. Currently, there is a project in Japan. We will be renovating a large hotel, which we don't know still if it will be a hotel or a rehab, or would it be a health center. So we are trying to decide what's the best for the positioning of the hotel. And then I will set up a whole project, and we will fundraise and we'll get it started.
Wow, that's incredible work. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I guess let's start with the beginning here. You mentioned your personal artwork and then your role in design. I mean, would you say that obviously that there needs to be a sense of creativity for both, but do they feel like the same kind of work? When you're working on your personal artwork, are you envisioning something to put out into the world, or are you kind of retelling a story that you already have? And likewise, when you're working on someone else's project, do you make it part of your own, or do you mold it to what your client needs or wants?
I feel like as an artist, I'm more working in solitude. It's just me. And I try to actually escape all the socializing when I'm creating art. Where the designer work is more like communicative. I'm usually leading a team of people. I usually have to collaborate with a lot of people. And then it comes up a lot of like deadlines and making things on time, depending on other people for materials, where the art is like more, it gives me more space and time and not so much responsibilities. But I like them both. It's a good balance to have from both. And it is not necessarily so that I work on both at the same time. If I have a project, let's say I start a series of artworks, I create 8 artworks at the same time. I put a layer of oil on the artworks and I wait for a week to dry because I like natural drying. Then I can focus on the design project fully in that time. So this is just like a different process, but it could be 2 different type of like projects I have. It's always it varies in how things work out.
Wow, it seems like you have those two very distinct activities. Like you have two different brains, and one brain state you use it to create art, and the other one you use it for the projects that you lead for your clients. I would like if you could be a bit more specific about the type of schedule that you're using. Like you said, sometimes you work on the art, then you take a break for 1 week, and then you go back to the art. Is that how you usually do it, week by week? Or do you have other ways to plan your life around that?
Well, it doesn't have any kind of shame, and I think a lot of people in my life feel a little bit that they don't even know where I am. I had members of my family asking, "Where are you now?" Because the past 2 years, actually, I was in the US. Before that, for 10 years, I commuted between London and New York with the Norwegian Airlines, only with a handbag. I was commuting between London. I had homes in both places. But for the past 2 years, I was in the US and traveling from Gulfport to San Francisco, LA. And then I was creating art on the go, sometime in hotel rooms, sometime I was finishing artworks on the way, or in my Airbnb apartment and delivering it and going to the next spot. I recently moved back to Europe, and I'm mostly now working on my art from London. And I travel. I have family in Bulgaria, and I sometimes go to Switzerland, like I would do in January. So I don't have this schedule like as you think. Sometimes I don't create anything for 1 month, no art, but then I write because I need to write down my ideas. Sometimes I write other type of texts about the art, about color psychology, and all sorts of things.
Also, so it's also writing. It's not just creating art pieces. You also write.
Well, I actually I speak 5 languages, but in no language I was a good writer. But when I had to study my postgraduate in Chelsea College in London, it was more about the concept than actually how you use, let's say, how you mix oil painting. Because by that time you should have known what to do with the paint, but you have to figure out the concept. So we had to write a lot of essays, and that's when I met Paul Huntington at a Listen Gallery show. And from then on, we started writing together. And then I realized that actually the connection with writing, with thinking, and creating art is very deep. And without the depth, you cannot create and explain and fascinate to other people what you're doing. And that's the fascinating part of art, because you create something without thinking of the clients. Where I think in design is vice versa. You do research, you're a little more commercial. It's like, for example, Andy Warhol. He also worked in commercial creativity. So in design, you have to focus on the client, where in art, you focus on yourself, within yourself.
Mm. You know,
Oh wow.
there's something really powerful about explicit communication. On the show, we've covered a host of different details. In one of our previous shows, we talked to a scientist who's also an artist, and he describes his art as a means to describe the world. But I think there's also a part of art, or a part of that descriptor, that implies your place in the world. And that's a very solitary pursuit, to define who you are at one moment in time in comparison to all the other. And that is a really powerful piece of art that comes out of introspection. Would you say that your art is mostly focused on this introspection, or do you kind of have this sense of putting yourself in a place and time in the world and then describing that piece of the world to others using your art?
I think that I actually don't come to an idea about creating art from whatever is happening in the world, because my artwork is kind of timeless. And it is very interesting, but particularly these abstract works, they were inspired by the library director in Chelsea in London. I was supposed to create the artwork to inspire people. And why people go
Mm,
to libraries is to get inspired not only for their personal lives, but also for their careers. So
mm,
that's why the circle has light in the middle and it spreads. Just like ideas come, just like light comes. So I actually came always to artwork through the material, because I, in my life, since I was little, was always being in a different place. Basically, my parents were entrepreneurs, and they left me with grandma when I was 1 year old, and she
mm.
was only 48 by that time, and she was working. So sometimes she would drop me at the post office, sometime at the lottery store, sometime wherever she found people available to take care of me. So I am used to like traveling all over the countries, and I don't actually, I feel the same if I'm in Paris or in Norway. I feel like immersed in the culture, and I like to learn about that culture and just be part of it. But so if they will be like sand only available to me, let's say I'm on the beach, I'll make out of something out of it. And why I came to create art from silk cocoons was that when I was left with my grandma, grandpa, they had a business having silk worms, sericulture, to
Mm.
create silk. And that was my only toy. Basically, I was playing with the cocoons since I was 5 year old. And then when I arrived in Chelsea, I found this bag in my grandma's house with 420-year-old cocoons, and I took them and
Wow.
I created this artwork. And from then on, this artwork took me on a journey, because people wanted to have only these artworks. They didn't want
Mm.
any more of the figurative from before, even though it's very good, because I was traditionally trained. But they were inspired by it.
That's so fascinating because you think of cocoons and you think of the natural implication that is growth, right? The small worm creates the cocoon and then grows into something bigger. And for you, that was your experience of growth was, yes, these things were yours to play with, but eventually the you grew out of being a child and you went into the world and discovered things that you truly loved and you enjoyed and you found out that you were really great at them. So it's kind of a beautiful story in terms of seeing the artwork mimic the artist. Could you tell us about your time maybe as an artist? What prompted you to go into art in the first place?
Well, I basically was left at grandma's, and all I can do was whatever was available to me, and I started creating art. And in order to have paint, I pulverized red bricks. And then my mother, she basically always took me to classes. And maybe since I was 5, probably I had more than 30 arts teachers. And
Wow.
having from all these cultures, and I studied art in three countries, in Bulgaria, in Germany, and England. And all these cultures where I traveled and created in people's homes artworks, because my artworks are very large. So I
Mm,
lived in Norway to create artwork. I lived in Germany. I lived in the US. I lived in Florida. So I kind of created where the client was in their homes. So this is not something I decide to do. It just happens. And I think the right things in life are always things which happen easily and smooth,
mm,
because there are situations where, okay, my mom was teaching to a boy in New York piano because the mother wanted him to learn piano, but the whole day he was creating airplanes. So he didn't want to
mm,
play piano. So the airplanes were his passion. And of course, you can learn a few songs for grandma and grandpa when they come to visit. But eventually you will get back to the engineering, and that will be your passion, and that's where you will be successful.
Ida, I've had a chance to visit your website and to see a few of your collections. And I've been wondering, that there is a difference between someone who creates art for himself and just for himself. But you're someone who created a lot of art pieces, a lot of collections, and who went to go through the tortuous path to exhibition. And I can imagine it must be really hard to get into the circuit. It must require a lot of willpower. I wonder what's your drive? What drove you to create so much art and to go to exhibitions and to do that over and over, few iterations, new collections. What's your drive?
Honestly, that is a very interesting question, which I cannot even answer myself. I don't know, but I'm not stopping to do things. Actually, I can show you here, for example, in this room. I have one small artwork here. It's
Okay,
a
so
small
let's
one.
try to describe it because we don't have the video on this podcast.
These are silk cocoons in bright yellow in the middle. People can see them on my website later when you share the links.
Yes,
And there is a
perfect.
violet around it, so it creates light in the middle. It's one of the smaller artworks which I created for Adria in Italy. I had a show there, and it's probably the last one which will be in this size. But it's still very powerful, and it's very interesting about the cocoons because exactly in that year the cocoons were very large, because it depends on how much the worms eat and how rainy is the weather at that year. But particularly this year was very dry and the worms ate a lot, so the cocoons are super large in
Which
very good
makes the
quality.
art different.
And they're just
Whoa.
like people. Some cocoons are smaller, some are larger, some are thicker, longer. There is all sorts of cocoons. Each cocoon is like an individual, like a person.
It's such a beautiful concept because I think, to answer your question, Geoff, a little earlier, some people just do something because they couldn't imagine their life without it. The same way that
I
you squint when you look at the sun. These are natural reactions to some people, and some people that's just how they live. But it's so interesting because seeing that artwork, I am immediately transported to my childhood, looking at dandelions and seeing something beautiful that resembles nature in its most simplistic form. It shows me that, yes, of course, art is always up to interpretation, but you have a means for creating something out of your history, your past, that connects with people. And you want people to understand and feel something provocative, something as though they are experiencing it again by seeing your art. And I think that's a beautiful thought that most people don't really connect to artwork right away. It's that, yes, you are creating something that's unique, and it might be your passion, and it might be a part of who you are, but it's also intricately human and connects to other humans because of that. Now,
Thank you for helping, Charles. Yeah, I think that's correct. And I have another story after you finish, if you finished or so.
no, yes, please go ahead.
Now I got the idea because Geoff asked me how I come to these ideas, particularly when I went to Norway. I thought because everything around there is gray and blue, I will be creating pink, red, orange artworks. I've created there only one artwork with red or in this type of color. The lady came to me and she said she wants a berry colored inside middle of the artwork. And it's only because they had strawberries in the garden. All the other clients ordered blue artworks. That's why I will never come to the idea to create these artworks in blue. And that's when people inspired me to do something what they wanted with my medium. And that's very exciting. I find it always exciting when people say, I want this but in gold, or I want this but with silver and slightly glossy, or a little bit iridescent, like my sofa, like my velvet sofa, or like my carpet, or like my child's dress. I don't know, like I really feel inspired about the colors, because colors are healing. So if you grew up with a particular color, you subconsciously will choose it later, and that will be your healing color.
Ida, I hoped so much that you would give us the secret that drives artistic creation. But if there is no secret, it's okay. Uh, it's very interesting what you just told us. It looks like clients, when they ask for something, can actually foster creativity and makes you see new things, try new things that you wouldn't have tried if they didn't ask for it. And I think this relation is very interesting because it means that you also take inspiration from people to create art. I would like to ask you about another secret. I would like to know the answer. when you when you when you start a new art piece, do you somehow visualize in advance what you want to have? Or is it more like a process of discovery? Like you try, and at the same time, it gives you ideas, and it's more a dynamic process of creation.
I create in series of artwork. If you look at my website, I have also these oil paintings, which are with 13 super thin layers of oil paint, non-material they are called. I have also the Ting series, which are impasto techniques. So I work in series, and so when I have to make new series, it's not coming out of like, it's coming out of, okay, they need to be born now. I can tell you particularly a story about how the latest series came out. I was doing a lot of the Birth of an Idea series, the ones with the silk cocoons in circle, and I had pneumonia in New York, and my father, like, he invited all of his friends, and one of them was, maybe I should give you a massage, or I don't know what. And I'm like, no, I just took the airplane to London, and I went to my art dealer, Paul Huntington. He treated me with natural medicines for pneumonia for 2 months. And after the 2 months, he said, okay, you're healthy now. Let's make new series of all of these leftover cocoons, which are in the other room. And let's make this series more successful than the circle series. And it's very interesting because these series are made from silk cocoons fibers extracted in hot water with a fork, because that's the way how you can only dissolve the saliva of the worm. Because cocoons consist of saliva of the worm with spin textile fiber around it. And I created those. And very interestingly, these series are bought only by men. They're mostly in violet. They're called the Letter series. You can view them also on the internet. And that's how the Letter series developed. So every time there is a trigger, like a person, for me, it has to be a person to tell me something, like the library director for the circle artworks, like Paul Huntington for the Letter series. Like, I need to trigger a person to trigger something, and then I will follow that lead and create something.
It makes it extremely serious as an artist, Ida, that you all face death with your with sorry with your pneumonia. I think this is a perk that many artists out there are looking for.
Yeah, don't get pneumonia. Try not to get pneumonia, but if you have pneumonia, you might make incredible art.
Oh, you can, I had to eat garlic, which was in honey, in 1 year, to like Paul prepared that garlic in honey, which stayed there for 1 year with spicy peppers. And I don't know what. It was terrible. I had to eat all these terrible things.
Oh my God. Okay, listen, it doesn't sound terrible, but I'm sure if you had to eat it every day, that might get a little
Not every
interesting.
day, every hour.
Oh my
When you
goodness.
have
Okay, never
pneumonia.
mind. Yeah, I would get sick of it too, I think. So, in terms of your art, I think we've touched a lot of really interesting and inspirational reasons why, but I'd love to know the methodology for your design because I think switching into the more collaborative area of design, there's a big distinction between creating what you think is really great versus creating what multiple people think is really great, especially when it comes to products. So, could you tell us a bit about how you collaborate with clients to create something?
Yes, so this project in Japan is the most recent. So I can explain with this project how this works. Currently, a person bought a hotel in Japan, which is very old. It has a little bit of a mountain on the side and also some water. It's at the water, and it
Mm,
is 5 floors, quite large, 4,800 square meters, I think, from what I
mm,
remember. So we don't know now. Are we going to make it to a hotel, rehab, elderly home, or health center? We don't know yet. Here I'm approaching things very commercially. So I'm making a very in-depth research. Who is going to that area? What kind of nationalities go there? What do they eat? What kind of colors are their clothing? In what kind of houses they live? Where they like going for trips, what kind of sickness or illnesses they have, most likely to
mm,
have, in case we made a health center.
right.
And then once we figure out what we are going to do with the building, then we have to decide on the colors. I particularly am very fascinated. Like I was in Germany and we designed a house which was all glass around and all the furniture was in the middle. Basically, the
Mm,
whole house was glass. So we made a lot of curtains, of course, all around it. And every wall was a slightly different tone of beige. And
oh,
it was creating such a vibrancy, because then you're walking in the room, but it's not completely the same beige. In the middle is the furniture, and it was a very exciting design. But here, like so this is a completely not a completely new culture for me, the Japanese culture, because we had a lot of when I was growing up. My father was a textile engineer, and there was an exchange between Japan and Bulgaria. So I kind of know a little bit of Japanese culture, but we have to emerge in the culture also, but also not
mm,
only do what they're doing, not do a completely Japanese design, but add a
right.
little bit of touch of it, which makes it exciting.
Mm,
And because the tourists, if there will be a hotel, are mostly Chinese, English, South Korean. So it has to create something which unites culture. Color
mm,
can do that, shape can do that. We can put a furniture from the 15th century from China, and then we put a furniture from the 15th century from England in the same color. I don't know, but this is what the thinking, where the thinking goes. And sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night dreaming about some kind of furniture, and I have to write down what I dreamt about, because this will be considered as part of the plan, how we are going to move forward. But this is very like commercial. As I said, I do like Google research, and I use all the current technology to research on common trends and what people like. But you have to also have the surprise effect. Do what nobody no, what that something what nobody is doing, And that will be the trick which will make exactly this hotel particularly unique and exciting for people.
Well, it seems to me that there are similarities between this project that you're doing with the hotel and the art pieces that you're doing with the silk cocoon, because the silk cocoons is a material with certain constraints, how it reacts, how you can use it, how it looks when you make an art piece with it. And conversely, with the hotel, you also have the constraints of the location, of the size of the building, of the culture. And when you say that you want to create something that brings cultures together, seems to me that it's the same process. And I wonder if that's how you see it.
That's a very interesting point, Geoff. I don't know. I haven't thought about this. But you're right. Somebody, like just like in art, gives me an idea and I take it and do something out of it. So basically I need a trigger. Somebody who brings idea, somebody who gives you something, and then you create something out of it. You make something out of it.
It reminds me improv theater. You know, when you improve, you make an improvisation on a scene with someone, and usually before you start, you ask the public for a word. And you build everything out of this word.
Oh, you've done comedy, Geoff? I love comedy because in New York, I was going, and also in Palm Beach, I went to improve. Actually, it's exactly how it's called in Palm Beach, improve comedy. I went there, and also in New York, in all these little bars, in the Black Cat Cafe in Lower East Side. So you've done this? You've done comedy? I mean, you
I
would
did
be great.
improv theater, but not comedy.
Okay.
But it might be a good thing to try. Yeah. Did you do it?
I was thinking of doing it, but I haven't. Basically, at the moment, I was just stealing people's jokes because, I thought that even if in business you have to make people smile to just relax the atmosphere, so everything is not so serious. I mean, you can do that also with drinking and alcohol, but the better thing is to do it with humor.
Oh, yeah.
And I still remember one joke which I actually used in business meetings. And the person was saying, I don't know, I should have done this XYZ. This should have been done already 2 days ago or something like that. And I thought, oh, that was kind of fun. That's a fun thing to say when you're working on a deadline.
I think it helps a lot to learn to be spontaneous and to lighten the atmosphere. Many people goes to improv because that's the type of skills they want to learn. And it's true that in business setting, it can make a big difference when you're able to put people comfortable.
Yeah, I think, when you're looking at any kind of art, really, because I don't have experience with comedy or with any kind of tactile art, but I'm a musician, and one of the most difficult kinds of music is jazz because a lot of it is free form. It's working with people on the fly, and for me, it's almost nearly impossible because if I don't have something to follow, I feel as though I'll step out of tune. And when you're working with people, it's very easy to create something that you think is perfect in your own mind, but translating that into what someone else wants or needs is a talent in and of itself. So people who create constructive ideas that match what someone wants or needs in a particular instance, for me, is akin to magic. So in terms of your journey in design, what has been your favorite piece that wasn't meant just for you?
Do you mean like product design or interior?
Yeah. Let's stick with product design.
I've done collections of clothing design and bags for the Pret-a-Porter in Paris, and so fashion shows. Honestly, I think it drives me to do more and more things because I haven't done the perfect piece yet. I think like every time like a piece is born, um it's born and goes out in the world and it has its own life, and it's like children, they're not perfect, they're beautiful and so on, but you always think I could even do another one, and maybe this one will be like whatever and even better or so. But it was very interesting when a person like a doctor who is helping women giving birth, he said, okay, you help the first child come out and it's beautiful, has a big head, big eyes, little body, is cute. But then you have another one comes out, oh, that one is also interesting. So you appreciate in every little thing the beauty. This one is beautiful like this way, and this one is beautiful in its own way. And that's because when I told him this show must be boring for you because all artworks are the same with a circle in the middle. And that's when he told me this about the children. When one
Mm.
comes out, it's like that. But then you see the other one is cute too and is different. And you cannot say now this one is perfect or the other one is perfect. You just see different type of cuteness in all of them. I don't know if that makes sense and if it answers your questions, Charles.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not so much that there is one that becomes your favorite, but all of them create a different heightened sense of, oh, I like this because of this small difference or this different medium or this different intention that I try to bring out into the world. All of them matter to you in a way that is precious, that maybe someone else might not be able to understand, but you love them all equally. But would you say that in this pursuit of art and this pursuit of creation, are you aiming for a perfect piece, or are you aiming for a collection that represents exactly what you want?
I designed my own house, and when we were going to do the building works, I talked to the construction manager, and I said, I want everything perfect. And you know what he told me? We
Mm,
will try to make it perfect because it will become imperfect anyway.
mm,
And we as humans are all perfectly imperfect. Of course, because I like to work up to perfection. But since I read a couple of articles in psychology, sometimes when you try to do something perfect, you miss all the other little things on the sides which you should focus your attention on. And that focus on one perfect thing will cost you sometimes 3 hours, where in the 3 hours you could have gained so much more goodness from all the other things. So
absolutely.
sometimes this perfection should be like you left it aside for a little bit, and then you don't look at it, and then make the not so perfect things a little bit, and then continue doing with the perfection afterwards.
Yeah, there are so many people out there who are looking and waiting to reach perfection because before they finally go out in the world, whether for their work or their creative activities. And usually the good advice is to do something that is good enough. But I think in art, good enough, is it good enough to be good enough, or do you still strive to something higher than that?
Well, do we have time? I will tell you why people acquire art. There are only three reasons. So, and that will answer your question because people will take things and appreciate things for three reasons. The one is because it's beautiful and they just like it. The other one is because it's good for investments. It will bring them money. Let's say I will make one artwork with one
Mm.
cocoon in a diamond in the middle of it. Well, if they sold a banana for 6 or 11 million, I don't remember anymore. It's Sotheby's, like only 2 weeks ago. I don't know for how much a diamond with in a silk cocoon will sell. Probably for 1 billion. But and the third reason is, and which was very often in New York and also in Norway, because it's common in their circles. If somebody had a
Mm.
Ferrari and their neighbor had a Ferrari and they had my artwork, and then the neighbor has to have the same artwork. And that's why in Norway, most of the community which was there with my art dealer has one of my works. And depends what happens with the mind. What is the first thought which comes to mind when they see a piece? Is it for the investment, for the likes, or is it for being part of a community? But there is no more than one idea which comes in the first 2 seconds.
That's fascinating because something that I didn't share with Geoff before we hopped on here is that I also collect art. And while I am a person who genuinely believes that the art should be a unique experience, I wonder to myself what kind of collector I am, and does that influence the kind of art that I purchase? Um, I always think of myself as kind of the opposite of the last statement that you made. I buy art because it's unique and uniquely beautiful, and no one else in the world is going to have that exact piece that I purchased. And for me, I view opportunities very similarly, and that might be to my detriment at times, but I love doing the unusual and I love meeting the unusual. And I think that's why Geoff and I kind of got together, because we
Team
recognize that
beautiful. Yes, team beautiful.
yeah.
Also.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is, we find such unique beauty in people that we want to share it with others. And so that forces us to say, like, yes, it's unique, but we also create a community around the unique. So I think it's a weird mesh, because we might consider that, yes, there are 3 different reasons why people buy art, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive. Maybe there's a continuum of mix between the two. I find my piece is beautiful, but I also find people beautiful in a way that I want to share.
But the first 2 seconds, you already made up your mind why you like something. And you cannot like it for 3 reasons at the same time. I'm certain of it. The first 2
There is a
seconds.
main reason. Oh, yeah. So
For
the first
example,
thing that
let's say
pops.
somebody serves you a steak. In the first 2 seconds, you already know, would you eat that steak?
True. I guess that kind of speaks to the nature of art itself, no? Is that there are things that are initially there, and it's quite explicit, quite basic, yes or no, right? Is it paint? Is it not paint? Is it yellow? Is it not yellow? But does your initial perception of the art mean that that's exactly what it is? And I'd argue no, because art is subjective. You can see how things change and how emotions change when you view it. But I think you're right. We need to value and we need to understand and capture the initial thought, which is very basic. Black and white, yes or no, 1, 2, or 3. There's no option other than that. And then recognize the reality that is things change later. I think perfection to imperfection, or simple to complex, is all part of a similar continuum that we all kind of have to live on, right? So that's a really interesting segue into something that I'm very interested to hear is, if someone out there who's right now feeling this same sense of, I want to pursue my creative love, and I want to create something that is meaningful, but I also want to make money off of it. I want to have a living. I want to create something that's sustainable for me, my family, or any one of those reasons. How would you counsel someone to start?
I would say that wherever the heart lies, that's where success comes, earlier or later. If it takes longer, that means that something bigger is coming for you than what you ask for. Like, I believe that if you start something with a lot of passion, at some point you will push a lot of doors and one door will open. So I will, like, really recommend just pursuing that and not waiting to be perfect or anything. and just starting with something and being passionate about it, and also not listening to advisors who are negative, and just being with people who support that passion, because this is so important. Most recently, when I was in New York, I was asked by a girl who is actually a singer if I can help her become famous. She's 24. I am 47 almost in a couple of weeks, and I took a couple of photos of her. She's a brilliant singer. Unfortunately, I left New York, but I think she's still using the photographs, and she needs more writings about her. She needs to socialize with writers, because writing and music and writing and art, these two connections are really important for the development of the brain, for both sides, for the writers and for the musicians, for the writers and for the fine artists. I would say just stay positive with positive people. And if there are people like your parents or family who don't want you to do that, just don't share with them, because of course you cannot escape these people, but just share with the people who are positive and who will drive you forward. And and plan for a bright future, because the future of following your dreams is so exciting.
Yeah, wow. So find
Yeah.
people who support you, knock on door, push doors, and again until you find something that goes. Amazing. Ida, that was beautiful. I'd like to ask you now a question that we ask all of our guests. It will be a special 2 minutes. I will give you the mic, and you will talk to everyone on earth of today, but also everyone who hasn't even been born yet, with this magic microphone that I give you right now. And you will give the message that you want to share with them.
Follow your dreams, follow your heart, only go where your heart lies, and just be in the moment. Surround yourself with the best people and treasure them with all of your time, because time is the most precious thing, and treasure them like diamonds.
Wow.
It's such a simple thought, right? But it's so powerful because it's the truth. We have so few days, so few hours on this little blue ball that we should only be doing the things that we love, spending time with the people we love. And for some people, some lucky people out there, making something really incredible, maybe that you share, maybe that you keep, but in either case, create and love creating. Ida, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Your work is beautiful. We're going to make sure that anyone who watches this show or listens to the show can have access to the links to find your work. And again, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much, Charles, and thank you so much, Geoff, for inviting
Thank
me.
you.
It's been
Thank you very
wonderful
much.
time. All the best for you. This podcast is so exciting, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Yay! Thank you very much. And before we leave, Ida, I remember last time you asked me that you were looking for an agent that could introduce you to L'Oreal. Is that still actual? Okay, so let's throw a bottle in the water. If any of you knows yourself or someone else who can introduce Ida to L'Oreal, please reach out.
Oh, thank you so much, Geoff. I will let you know if somebody did. Thank you. I'm sure when the idea is ripe, it will come.
And where can we find you?
idaivanka.art.
Okay,
There is
we
my
will put the
email
link
address
in the description.
Awesome. Sounds great.
And Charles, check out the music I've chosen for my art performances on YouTube.
Oh, I certainly will.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Okay.
Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.